Hello, another US Geoguessr professor video coming your way. We're going to be playing some more Geoguessr in the United States on the official US Geoguessr map. It's frustrating. It can put us just about anywhere. Hopefully, I'll get lucky. We might get a couple urban rounds out of this. I'm going to be having the option of moving, because, especially on this map in the US, sometimes we got to move around a little bit to figure out where we are. 10-minute rounds, and I hope to share with you my expertise, some knowledge, some education in my thinking and my analysis. Let's improve your United States GeoGuessr game and your region guessing, and maybe your US geography knowledge. First seed, great, we get an urban round. I see a driveway and some trees and cars. I'm excited already. So we are at Southwest 10 Lane, Southwest 132 Avenue. I feel like maybe this could be a no moving round. I don't know. I'm not going to get too ambitious yet. So if we look, this kind of numbering system, right, where we have a grid system where every single road is numbered. First thing that immediately comes to my mind is Florida when I see all of those numbers. We also see that kind of street numbering system up in the upper Midwest, so in the Dakotas, like North and South Dakota, Minneapolis, St. Paul region, but it's pretty obvious we're nowhere near there, right? See a lot of palm trees, tall palm trees. We see a lot of these terracotta kind of tiled roofs. Westbrook Lake homes, 5 miles an hour. That seems like an implausible speed limit. I don't know if it's even possible to go 5. This bush here, it's a bush that looks like a Florida bush. Could be a California bush. I wish I knew more about botany. Southwest 132 Avenue. So with this proliferation of palm trees, with some of the names that we're seeing, trade something, Westbrook Lake, it seems like everywhere in Florida ends in lake. I wish I was just about 10 feet to the left, maybe, and I get a better view of that plate. To me, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm thinking that maybe looks like a Florida plate. They're green with an orange in the middle. The fact that I'm seeing 2 cars farther up with no front plates also reinforces Florida. Obviously, we see palm trees like this. We see architecture like this in Southern California, even in some cases in Northern California. But we would be seeing front plates for sure. I think that our street signs would be different. I think our foliage would be a little bit different. This bush that I'm zooming in on here, again, I wish I knew more about botany, but these kind of like low palm frondy looking plants, they just look sharp. You don't want to run into them. Yeah, that's really like Florida and like low country southeast as well. I think this might be an orange. Again, wishful thinking. Am I seeing an orange tree off in the distance? Southwest, 10 Lane, Southwest 132 Ave. All right, so with this grid system, if we're indeed in Florida, the Southwest, I think, would match up with Miami metro area. Most of Miami is going to go southwest in that direction. Either southwest or north. See how the geography of Miami, like everything pretty much radiates either north from Miami through these like vast suburbs to the north, or southwest. So the southwest makes me think of Florida. Miami specifically. Southwest 87th Avenue. Okay, interesting. So it seems like that grid system would fit. Southwest 117th. Southwest 148th, 123. Here, I would imagine that 132, Southwest 132 Avenue, would be a fairly major road. Yeah. Here's Southwest 132nd. Where's our cross street? Southwest 10 Lane. Very interesting. So there's Southwest 132nd. Could 10 Lane be anywhere near here? I don't. The cross streets are numbered as well. Is this? No, it's a 10. I moved one step. I just wasn't sure if that really said Southwest 10. Because Westbrook Lake would not seem to fit. If we're on Southwest 132nd, outside of Miami, we would be in... now see, Southwest 132nd continues. Could we be farther north, and could there be a 10? Yeah, I don't see why not. Southwest 132nd. Southwest 17th Lane. Southwest 9th Lane. Southwest 10th Terrace. But this is Southwest 10th Lane, there's Southwest 10th Lane. Okay, so could there be anywhere else in Florida that would share the same grid system? I know like Tampa, St. Petersburg has similar signs. They also have a similar system, but I think it's a little bit different. Also, I think in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Southwest wouldn't make as much sense as it would here. If we look on the map, it seems like Southwest 132nd is a little bit divided. Southwest 10 Lane leads to a circular cul-de-sac. Good. Also leads across the street. This absolutely has to be where we are. So this would put us way southwest of Miami. Tamiami, Florida. Interesting. Nothing about this view says Tamiami. We saw Westbrook Lake Homes. We're not seeing that anywhere. Could this be Westbrook Lake? There's lakes all over Florida. But yeah, I mean, I think it would reason that we are extremely west of Miami. Tamiami, Florida. Yeah, 5K, 0 yards. Very nice. Love that. So, I know I took a step, but can we count that no moving? We didn't move very far. We got it from the street signs. Okay, we are somewhere else where we have some immediate clues. This is good. Looks like front plate might be a hint on this first truck. We have Bender Land Associates storage units. No area codes, unfortunately. Maple Lane Nursery. AG Plastic Solutions. AG. AB Storage, okay. Somewhere with some rolling hills, it looks like. We have some hills off to the northwest. To me, these look very much like hills of the Appalachian region. These kind of rolling cornfields, rolling hills, gentle slopes. We do have, at least on that truck, a front plate. On this vehicle here, very nondescript white plate, unfortunately. The only thing that plate makes me think of is maybe from this distance a Wisconsin plate. Huh. I think that would definitely fit here, but we would have to be somewhere in what is known as the driftless area of Wisconsin. So somewhere in extreme like west or northwest Wisconsin. Not Northwoods, but like around the Mississippi River Valley. But really, that mountain in particular. And yeah, if we were in the Appalachians, that would qualify as a mountain. It's low, it's very old, it's very forested. But then this view is very different. It's hilly, but it's largely agricultural. This view also largely agricultural, but like some low rolling hills off to that side as well. I think I'm going to move to see if we indeed do have front plates or not. I think that's going to be one of the most valuable things we can get. Yeah, and confirming it on this car, it does look like that also has a front plate, but we're pretty close to this plate. We're pretty close to the blur. It's really hard to see what plate that might be. Let's go up the road. Yeah, again, through some of these more like gently rolling forested hills, we really have front plates on every car. So that leads us either to upper Midwest, so yeah, like Wisconsin area, or somewhere in the Northeast, New England, or maybe even Virginia, Maryland. Those states are Appalachian, and they would have front plates. It's really hard telling. We just know that we're somewhere pretty hilly and pretty Appalachian looking. Now, confusingly, it looks like that car does not have a front plate, nor does that car. So, we're 50-50. This van is unfortunately going to give us an 866 area code. That's a nationwide toll-free area code, so that is not going to help us. Mobile maintenance vehicle and equipment. We're not lucky enough to where that truck could tell us that we're in Mobile, Alabama, right? I don't believe that. One, because I don't believe we're there. Would look a lot different. And two, I think it's like mobile, like the truck is mobile, right? So Mobile, Alabama is a pretty big city. Maybe can be confusing that way, but yeah, we're definitely not there. Rolling agricultural landscape, though, farm fresh produce. This is a confusing round. This is your typical rural round, right? Where you got to do a lot of moving, you got to do a lot of speculating. Where could we possibly be? We haven't even gotten a good area code, haven't really gotten a good license plate yet. I think this might be helpful. 6267 Park Road, Orrstown. You just passed Clearview Greenhouse. You just passed Maple Lane Nursery, 6471 Park Road. So we're obviously on Park Road in Orrstown. Wow, not helpful. Oh, unless you're lucky enough to know where Orrstown is, I don't think you're going to be jumping with joy for that sign. Now, this truck right here, blue at the top, white, yellow. This is a Pennsylvania plate. That's a Pennsylvania plate. Now, she's got a front plate, but it's different. See? Trying to fool us. That's not a state plate. This is Pennsylvania. That's a Pennsylvania plate, but I don't think any of those other plates were Pennsylvania. Some of them had front plates. A couple of them did not, which would make sense. Okay, that would make sense. Orrsville, Village of Pleasant Hall. Okay, so that village sign makes me think of Pennsylvania too. I feel like you see those like old-timey village signs, for lack of a better term. Those white ones, I feel like you see those in central Pennsylvania. So everything about this would make sense if that's where we were. Mostly no plates, no front plates, but it feels like we get like a little bit of a mix, which might be good for Pennsylvania. It feels like it's somewhere rather agricultural, somewhere mountainous. Pleasant Hall, 717. Gotta be a Pennsylvania area code, because now we have a Pennsylvania state highway sign. Do you see this? It's a keystone shape. A lot of times those Pennsylvania state highway signs have triple digits as well. Pennsylvania's a big state. So we're in Orrstown, we're near 533, and we're near Pleasant Hill. I think we have just a couple minutes to region guess Pennsylvania here. So low rolling green 717 area code. It's definitely not Pittsburgh. Would expect if we were closer to Pittsburgh, it'd be even a little hillier. I feel like this is maybe even slightly flat feeling for Pennsylvania. We see hills in almost every direction, which makes a lot of sense. We could find the 533. I don't think you would say the 533 if you lived in Pennsylvania, but at any rate, State Highway 533. This is going to be a plonk in the middle of the state because we don't have anything else to go off of. It feels like those kind of hills that might be central Pennsylvania. Where would we be where we have a mix, though, of some of the cars having front plates, possibly? Would that mean that we're closer to the New York border or the New Jersey border? Orrstown, we knew was where we were close. Shippensburg, all right, now we're getting somewhere with under a minute. Upper Strasburg 3, Shippensburg 7. Shippensburg is 7 to the southeast. All right, so Shippensburg, as you can see, south Pennsylvania. Definitely in that like south central region. Its proximity to Maryland may explain some of those mixtures of plates we saw. There's Shippensburg, 7 to the south southeast. There's Orrstown, and there is Pleasant Hall. I don't think we have time. We just got to drop it in Pleasant Hall, Pennsylvania. All right, within yards, I'll take it, 4993. Took the full 10 minutes, but we got there. We were real close to Pleasant Hall, Pennsylvania, so we were right there on that road in between Orrstown and Upper Strasburg. A lot of times, just process of elimination, guessing, seemed Appalachian. Notice how we were just right there in the central Appalachian Mountains. It's really about as deep. Well, I mean, I guess we could have been farther south into West Virginia, but central Pennsylvania is about as deep into those old mountains. They're low. They're really kind of like everywhere in every direction. We got there. Pleasant Hall, Pennsylvania. Number 3, we get a rural round. We knew it had to happen one of these times. I mean, Pleasant Hall was pretty rural. Highway 77 and O. Does that say O Street? Okay. Looking down this kind of rolling gravel road, we see a metal silo. Those kind of like low-fat grain silos, for some reason, I feel like you see an awful lot of in Nebraska and Kansas. I don't know why, when I see those silos, it just really feels like Nebraska. This kind of mix of trees, mostly deciduous, however, would lead me to the middle of the country. Low rolling landscapes, predominantly agricultural, Highway 77 and O Avenue. This does not immediately strike me as a Texas road, nor as a Texas landscape, so I think we might be farther up in that central column of states in the Great Plains. We might be a little bit farther over. I mean, I could definitely see us here being in somewhere like Iowa. I feel like we might have to be in western Iowa or even extreme eastern Iowa with these hills. Highway 77, though, is I think going to be our biggest clue. I'm going to assume, given that it looks like a pretty major north-south two-lane highway, that we are on US 77. I don't think this is a state highway 77. I think it's just too big for that. And the fact that it's running generally north-south, or actually like pretty bang on north-south, makes me even more confident that this is a US highway. So we can use that to pinpoint more where we are. Notice that here I am in the middle of Nebraska, and we see Highway 83 going north-south, and we see 183, 281. Typically, they are going to go U.S. highways, increasing from east to west. So like US Route 1 is in New England along the East Coast, and then you have like high numbers in the West. It's not perfect like that, because notice like we're like in the middle of the country and we're still in the 80s. So where would 77 put us? Right there in eastern Nebraska, yeah. So I was just talking about how we might be in western Iowa, but it looks like more likely we're in eastern Nebraska. We have some time. We haven't really, I mean, I took one step, I think, just by mistake, but I think I did that on the first round. Sorry, I'm trying to go no moving, at least at first, but we may have to move here. Where does 77 go? Are we lucky enough that 77 ends here in Sioux City or south of Sioux City? Yeah, it looks like end of 77 looks like right there in northern Nebraska. And look at what I zoomed in on. I zoomed in on 77 and H Avenue. We might be real near the end of 77 here in eastern Nebraska. There's the Missouri River. That would explain some of these western Iowa hill vibes I was getting there. But let's stay here. We're in Winnebago, Nebraska. E Avenue and 77. G H. Okay, so that will put us now. Look at how many casinos are around here. That seems cool. We are on the Omaha or Winnebago reservations in eastern Nebraska. Very interesting. That would explain the number of casinos here in this region, even though it seems incredibly rural. K Avenue and 77. Where is this grid system going out of? Are these numbered streets just streets for the reservation, I'm wondering? Or, because it looks like we're very far north of Omaha. Yeah, we're actually closer to Sioux City, Iowa, near Walt Hill, Nebraska, but we're even farther south. Are we still in the Omaha Reservation? I must admit I have never heard of the Omaha Reservation, and we're actually pretty far north of Omaha, the city of Omaha, that is. But yeah, we're at O Avenue and Highway 77. We have 4 minutes left. We found that, but yeah, O Avenue could be a pretty common designator. I mean, at this point, though, 77 is running just bang on north-south, O Avenue, dead east-west. You could see if we look to the east of us, there'd be a little road going off to the south there, and it looks like there is. I don't think we could be anywhere else, although since I haven't really moved, except for one step, I don't have street signs. We can't be 100% certain we're in Nebraska, but just everything about this scene would be really, really typical of that Missouri River Valley going in between Nebraska and Iowa. Rolling hills, probably hillier than you would expect for Nebraska, Iowa. Pretty agricultural, obviously, largely deciduous. I don't think, let me just, since we have some time, I'm going to take a look, just what does 77 do in Kansas? See how 77 comes all the way down through Lincoln, goes through Kansas, then takes us almost all the way. Looks like it ends possibly in either El Dorado, Kansas? Yeah. Alright, so our only other alternative here, I think, would be Kansas. But I don't think I'm going to second guess myself. If there's another O Avenue, so be it. Yeah, 5,000. Good job. Me. We're at O Avenue in 77. So even sometimes, I think I got really lucky just because that section of 77 I zoomed in on had letters. But it looked like there's lettered roads all the way through these reservations in Nebraska. So that was actually pretty easy to find for a very, very rural round in Nebraska. Okay, immediately staring at some mountains here on our fourth seed. We are on another numbered grid system, gotta love them. Lots of American cities have them, they're all a little bit different. Also zooming in here, I see a green plate, bright green plate off in the distance, super interesting. Very few places have green plates in America. Vermont has green plates, definitely not in Vermont. No front plates, and also another green plate straight ahead of us next to a bright yellow plate. And I think even here, we see how that yellow plate even has some faint red lettering. So all of those license plates, coupled with everything about this landscape and everything about this architecture, is telling me New Mexico. We are somewhere in, I would venture to guess, northern New Mexico. Now, New Mexico is a little bit interesting because, okay, now I'm going to walk that back because we just went by this very fat pine tree. I'm not sure. Why did I call that a pine tree? A palm tree. Although I'm not even sure that's a palm tree. This kind of fat desert tree. That to me might make me think we're maybe even a little bit farther south, possibly. I don't know though. New Mexico is a hard place to region guess. It's a really big state. It's one of the biggest states in the country. Has a lot of landscapes. It can look like Phoenix in places. It can look like mountainous, snow covered in places. And we see some really high mountains here. We got some clues. I'm not going to move yet. That architecture, okay, this low adobe style architecture, that really makes me think of either Santa Fe or Taos, New Mexico. However, when we swung around to this other side of the street, we see some much more typically American looking houses. Nothing about this house really screams New Mexico, right? But when you turn around, everything about that house says New Mexico to me. So I think that is where we are with all the plates. And that's got to be where we are. Mountains. Mountains to the east, too. So our highest mountains are almost directly to the east-southeast. I think that would also be fairly indicative of like Taos Santa Fe region. The architecture is leading me there. Some of this vegetation feels a little bit more deserty. I'm not sure. Would there be mountains to the east, southeast, and Albuquerque? There sure would. There sure would. We would be looking at Sandia Peak, right due east, Sandia Crest, yeah, if we were in Albuquerque. If we were in Santa Fe, we might be looking at Thompson Peak, although I think, wow, in Santa Fe, there would be mountains much more to the northeast as well. I also don't think that Santa Fe is on any kind of grid system. 14th Avenue Southeast, that would put us southeast of downtown Santa Fe. And yeah, I don't see any kind of grid system. The other thing that tells me that we're probably not in Santa Fe is that everywhere doesn't look like this Adobe style. We have like more mundane looking houses. And so that, I think, would point me more towards Albuquerque. While we're up here, though, I'm going to take a look at Taos. I feel like that could be another place where we are. But yeah, I don't think that Taos has any sort of grid system, much like Santa Fe. And I don't think that Taos would have this mix of architecture. It would be almost predominantly this kind of low Adobe style housing. So I think we're on the east side of Albuquerque, maybe. I think we're looking at Sandia Peak, Sandia Crest. I think we're looking at some mountains to the southeast. I think let's zoom in on Albuquerque. 14th Avenue Southeast. Is Albuquerque on a numbered grid system? I gotta say that I'm not sure. I do see some directional roads. We have a lot of roads that are going southeast with that southeast ending, so that is promising. But do we have anything that's numbered? 14th southeast. One would assume that if there were numbered avenues, they would be radiating right out of downtown, and they are, but they're going in the wrong direction, and there's streets in Albuquerque. But does that not look like it could possibly be the Sandia Mountains? I wish I was a little bit more knowledgeable about New Mexico geography. All right, let's just rethink this. So the 14th Avenue Southeast is going east-west. Wow, I really wish I could see that north-south street. If I narrow this down, I'm going to maybe take a look at that so we can pinpoint. First Street Southeast. See, none of these are going east-west. Where else could we be in New Mexico? Where we are looking at mountains to the east. Alamogordo? East First Street. No. Mountains to the east, mountains to the southeast. Definitely New Mexico. Looks deserty, though. Looks deserty. I think we'd be too flat for that far down. Let me look maybe like north or south of Anchorage. Could we be, or Anchorage, Albuquerque. Could we be in somewhere, I'm wondering, like still in that front range, but like not in Albuquerque. I'm thinking maybe somewhere here, like Rio Rancho. Would that make sense, looking east towards high mountains? It looks like that would make even more sense than Albuquerque, because it looks like we're looking up towards that Sandia Peak tramway. Like, I feel like this might be some of the highest mountains in New Mexico. And I think that'd be plausible. They'd be off in the distance. Wow, Rio Rancho. The more I look at it, it makes a lot of sense. We have roads going east-west. 14th, where's 14th? 14th Avenue Southeast. Wow, that is not, at least right here, a very long road. Rio Rancho. Would north of Albuquerque make sense? I think it would. 14th Avenue Southeast. Does 14th Avenue Southeast continue? 14th Avenue Southeast, yes. Yes, it continues. Unser Gateway. U10, Heritage Hills. Wow. I bet we're in Heritage Hills. Because that looks like it would be the longest piece of 14th Avenue Southwest. Or I'm sorry, Southeast. Now, we're going to Southwest, which we can't be doing here. Less than a minute. I think we're in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, 14th Avenue Southeast. So would this be Rainbow? Or would this be 3rd? Or would this be 5th? It could be either 3rd or 5th. Okay, well, what are we on, the 4th seed? I've taken a couple steps. I'm going to step here. Are we at 3rd or 5th? 32nd Street Southeast. Oh, holy crap. Okay, so I'm glad I moved. Where's 32nd Street? 5th Street Southeast. Okay, so we got to be farther east. Got to be farther east. 17 seconds. 15th, 19th, 14th, 31st, 32nd, 14th Avenue Southeast, 32nd, Rio Rancho, New Mexico, 5K. There we go, baby. 5 yards away. Well, I've been taking my full 10 minutes, but I haven't really been moving. We've been getting some hard rounds. That really took some exploration around New Mexico, but I'm proud of that one. Wow, we were north of Albuquerque. We just had to line up the mountains. That was Sandia Peak. Okay, nice, good. We're getting a little bit of urban or suburban here. I was thinking, I mean, almost got like a little bit of New Zealand vibe off of that initial impression, but just kidding, I know. Not there, of course. Really should just stop playing world map altogether. It just confuses me. Okay, blue street signs. Blue and whites. Interesting. Most of the time we get green and white street signs, so there's going to be some variation of that. So it's often helpful when we see blue and white. Blue and white makes me think of LA immediately. I mean, is this throwing off a little like Hollywood Hills vibe? I mean, kinda. Wherever we are is pretty hilly. It's pretty green. One thing I'm noticing, though, is how coniferous the landscape is. We have, like, I would almost venture to say we're looking at, like, mostly conifers. We have maybe birches there, U.S. mail. So a mix, to be fair. We have low, kind of lowish brown mountains to the south. And then also to even higher to the north and northeast. It does certainly look like we're in the suburbs of a fairly large major metropolitan area, does it not? Foothill kind of mountains, maybe, to the south. Northeast. If we're out in the Rockies, they certainly wouldn't be high mountains. They'd just be kind of like foothill mountains. Scenic Drive, blue street signs, hilly. I'm going to just shift just a little bit to see if I can get a good read on that trash bin. Property of the city of something. Wow, helpful. What does that say? Property of the city of something. And then a phone number. What is that symbol in the middle of the seal. And it also looks like the city of somewhere might start with a T. Would that make any sense at all? T. Tell you, can't think of any city that would start with a T that would look like this. Am I missing something obvious? That's difficult to read. Since I moved, I took just a couple steps. Now let's see if we can look at this street sign. Scenic Drive and Fellows Drive. Where could we be? Lots and lots of pine trees. I think we need to go down the hill. Look at how kind of like wide open. We're down in a valley with some kind of low foothill kind of mountains. Everything looks pretty new. You can see we even have a bunch of new construction happening over like in this area. This kind of newness, look, we got some solar panels being installed here. This kind of newness, really makes me think of the Mountain West. They're constantly building stuff. Everywhere you go in places like Denver, Salt Lake City, up into Boise, into, like in the Pacific Northwest. Just stuff looks new and it's just kind of like built up everywhere. In this kind of like weird valley. Low house construction. I mean, these kind of houses are like West Coast, almost California style houses. For sale, 206724. So we're in a 206 area code. That I think 206. 206. No, Idaho is 208. Montana is 406. 206. I want to say 206 is Seattle. I mean, there's some things here that look like Seattle, but I mean, it's hilly, but I mean, there's no way this is Seattle, right? 206 Fellows. Starts with a T. Could we be in Tacoma, Washington? Could we be in Tacoma? Did that really start with a T, or am I just tripping? I gotta say, just looking around, like, I don't know if this really looks like Washington. I was getting, like, a little bit more, like, Mountain West vibes here. Red, white, and blue, license plate. Tell you, all of that says Wisconsin, or Washington to me. That kind of little blue license plate, that says Washington, 206. I mean, we're in Washington, right? East, southeast. Is this what Tacoma looks like? Gotta admit, I haven't spent much time in Tacoma. Spent a great deal of time in Seattle. And I would be, I gotta say, absolutely blown away if we were in Seattle. As like brown as these mountains are, could we just be like in dead on summer or something in Seattle? I mean, am I tripping and just saying that, like, I really don't think Seattle looks like this. I really wish I could get a newspaper name off of that. I tell you, everything's hilly. We have a lot of pine trees. That's for darn sure. We have a lot of very wealthy looking houses. That's darn sure. If I'm thinking about, if I'm even saying, some of this is reminiscent of like Hollywood Hills. Where in Seattle would look like this? Not anywhere in the city. That's for darn sure. These brown mountains? Are you kidding me? 206, though. 206. My way off. My way off. Berkshire Hathaway, 509. Okay, now we got another area code. It's making me think we might be somewhere else in Washington. I gotta say, that right there, that kind of like white on the top, pale blue on the bottom with a little bit of red, that's a Washington plate. City of somewhere. I wish I could read you. Really wish I could read those trash bins. I think that would really give it away. Could we be like Spokane Valley, 509? I don't think so. Seattle, 206 area code. Where would be this flat looking east, southeast toward lower mountains, but then looking north, northeast towards mountains here? That is what is making no sense to me. That is making no sense. Would that make more sense for somewhere like Spokane? Yeah. Yeah. I really don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, we're in Yakima, Washington. So I think that 206 area code might be like a little bit bigger, or I was really confused. I knew we couldn't really be anywhere in Seattle. I thought I was getting a Y off of that trash can. Thought it might have said Tacoma. I think it obviously, in retrospect, said Yakima, but I guess it's not too bad. We're like one city over in Washington. We were 100 miles away, but wow, we really didn't have a lot of clues there. Not a great Washington region guess, but I think not like a horrible way to end the video either. So how did I end up? 24. Okay, I broke 24,000. I think that's generally my goal, even on just the generic United States map. I gotta remind myself I was playing on that tough, just regular U.S. map. We had a lot of places that were just random, it seems like. But let's review. We were in extreme southeastern Miami, southwestern Miami on our first round. Tamiami, managed to 5K that, just right off the street signs. Knew we were on probably Miami grid system somewhere, so we found Tamiami. Second round, we were close. We were real near Pleasant Hall, Pennsylvania, in the middle of the state. Round 3, northern Nebraska. That was pretty serendipitous, I think. We found Highway 77. We knew we were on there, but just finding those lettered streets in northern Nebraska, I think was pretty lucky. Managed to 5K that. I had 3 5Ks. That's not too bad. Rio Rancho, New Mexico. I feel like that was good. 2, had to kind of line up the mountains. We knew we were in New Mexico, but we had to find the right grid system. And then, yeah, my least impressive performance. Tacoma was not Yakima, but we were in. Can we say Western? I guess we can't qualify Yakima as Western Washington, but we weren't all that far away. I'm pretty happy with a 24K. Had some pretty challenging rounds. Didn't really move a whole lot either. On that last round I moved, but really didn't find a lot. So going off of very few clues. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit about US geography as you played with me.